Store employees kick a black woman out of the bridal shop. 5 minutes later, they're fired. Imagine walking into a place that's supposed to be filled with dreams, love, and joy, only to leave feeling humiliated, disrespected, and angry. That's exactly what happened to Amara Johnson when she stepped into Eleanor's bridal boutique, hoping to pick up the wedding dress of her dreams. But instead of being treated like a bride-to-be, celebrating one of life's most special moments, she was met with cold stares, unfair rules, and outright discrimination. What makes this story even more shocking is how quickly everything changes. In just 5 minutes, store employees who thought they were untouchable soon find themselves on the wrong side of justice. Today, we're diving deep into a powerful tale about standing up against racism, holding people accountable for their actions, and finding strength in solidarity. The scene begins as Amara walks into the boutique, her heart brimming with excitement. She had spent months planning every detail of her big day, the flowers, the venue, the vows. And now it was time to see the gown she'd designed herself. The boutique looked picture perfect, with its sparkling chandeliers, walls lined with luxurious gowns, and an air of elegance that promised magic. But within minutes, the warmth of anticipation turned into icy tension. A young staff member named Mia barely acknowledged Amara's presence, scrolling through her phone as if Amara wasn't there. It was subtle at first, a dismissive glance here, a condescending tone there, but it didn't take long for things to escalate. When Amara asked to try on her custom-made dress before finalizing payment, Mia flatly refused, citing a store policy that conveniently didn't apply to other customers. And that's where the nightmare began. As the story unfolds, you'll meet some unforgettable characters. There's Amara, the strong-willed bride, determined to fight back, despite the odds stacked against her. Then there's Rebecca Langford, the store manager, whose polished exterior hides a deeply ingrained sense of entitlement. And let's not forget Mia Carter, the snarky assistant, whose smirks and sarcastic comments add fuel to the fire. Each character plays a crucial role in this drama, but none compare to Marcus Williams, Amara's fiancé. When he enters the scene, the entire dynamic shifts. His arrival isn't just a plot twist. It's a turning point that flips the power balance upside down. What sets this story apart is how relatable yet infuriating it feels. We've all been in situations where we felt small or unheard because of someone else's prejudice. Maybe you've walked into a store and sensed that unwelcome vibe. Or worse, experienced it firsthand. This story taps into those raw emotions, shining a light on systemic issues like racial bias and unequal treatment. It also raises important questions. Why do certain policies exist? Who benefits from them? And what happens when someone decides enough is enough? Amara's journey takes a darker turn when Rebecca steps in. Instead of resolving the issue, the manager doubles down on the mistreatment. Not only does she refuse to budge on the no try-ons rule, but she also shocks Amara by increasing the price of the dress out of nowhere, from $3,500 to $5,000. Just like that. When Amara calls them out on their shady tactics, Rebecca tries to gaslight her, claiming it was all a simple clerical error. But Amara knows better. Things reach a boiling point when Rebecca suggests having another employee model the dress for Amara, implying she might damage it. It's a slap in the face, one that pushes Amara over the edge. But here's where the suspense kicks in. Just as Amara is escorted out of the store, under the threat of calling security, something unexpected happens. Standing outside, still reeling from the humiliation, she locks eyes with Marcus. He doesn't need her to explain what happened. The pain in her expression says it all. With quiet determination, Marcus heads straight into the boutique, ready to confront the people who dared to mistreat his fiancée. You can feel the tension building. What will he say? How far will he go to protect Amara? And most importantly, will justice prevail? This story isn't just about revenge or punishment. At its core, it's about dignity, respect, and the importance of standing up for what's right. It reminds us that no matter how powerless we may feel in the moment, there's always hope for change. As Marcus steps into the boutique, his commanding presence sends ripples of fear through the staff. For the first time, Rebecca and Mia realize they've made a grave mistake, but it's too late to undo the damage. They're about to face consequences they never saw coming. And that brings us to the cliffhanger. As Marcus lays down the law, demanding answers and accountability, the atmosphere inside the boutique becomes electric. Every word he speaks cuts deeper than the last, exposing the ugly truth behind their actions. By the time he drops the bombshell that he owns the boutique, the room falls silent. Rebecca stammers, Mia freezes, and the rest of the staff holds their breath. Will they lose their jobs? Will Amara finally get the apology she deserves? Or is this just the beginning of a larger reckoning? Stay tuned for the next part of this gripping story. You won't want to miss what happens next. Amara's humiliation wasn't just about a dress. It was about respect, dignity, and the deep-rooted biases that still linger in spaces meant to celebrate love and unity. As she stood outside the boutique, her heart pounding with anger and disbelief, Marcus could see the storm brewing in her eyes. He didn't need her to explain. He knew this wasn't simply an isolated incident. It was another reminder of how often people like them had to fight twice as hard for half the recognition. But what made this moment different was that Amara wasn't alone this time. Marcus had always been her rock, but today he would become something more, a force no one at Eleanor's bridal boutique was prepared for. Inside the boutique, Rebecca and Mia were already back to their usual routines. Pretending nothing extraordinary had happened, they whispered among themselves, laughing it off, as if Amara's outburst was just some minor inconvenience they'd successfully dealt with. "She'll cool off," Mia said smugly, flipping through a magazine while lounging on a plush chair near the counter. "People like her always do." Rebecca nodded absently, though there was a flicker of unease in her expression. Deep down, she knew something felt off about the encounter, but she pushed it aside. After all, she had spent years running the boutique her way, bending rules for those who mattered and enforcing them strictly for everyone else. What did one angry customer matter in the grand scheme of things? But both women underestimated the ripple effect of their actions. And the man walking through the boutique doors, mere minutes later, when Marcus stepped inside, his presence commanded attention immediately. Dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, his broad shoulders and piercing gaze seemed to fill the room. The soft hum of conversation faded into silence as employees turned to look at him. For a brief second, Rebecca thought he might be a potential client, someone wealthy enough to warrant VIP treatment. But when his eyes locked onto hers, her stomach dropped. There was no warmth in his expression, only cold determination. "Rebecca," Marcus began, his voice low, but carrying an edge that silenced any lingering chatter in the background. "We need to talk." His tone left no room for argument, and Rebecca instinctively straightened, her polished demeanor cracking ever so slightly. She glanced around nervously, hoping someone would step in or intervene. But the other staff members quickly busied themselves elsewhere. Even Mia shrank back, suddenly realizing this wasn't going to go the way she expected. As Marcus recounted everything Amara had told him, each word landed like a hammer blow against Rebecca's carefully constructed facade. At first, she tried to defend herself, stammering excuses about store policies and misunderstandings. But Marcus wasn't buying it. Every lie unraveled under his scrutiny until Rebecca was left standing there, pale and trembling, unable to deny the truth anymore. And then came the bombshell. "You work for me," Marcus stated flatly, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The air froze as everyone processed what he had just said. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water, searching for words that wouldn't come. Meanwhile, Amara waited outside, replaying every painful moment in her mind. She hated feeling powerless, but she also knew better than to let it consume her. Instead, she focused on Marcus, on the strength and clarity he brought to situations like this. He had built his success from scratch, refusing to let anyone stand in his way. If anyone could turn this nightmare into justice, it was him. Still, doubt crept in. Would exposing their behavior really change anything? Or would it just reinforce the same old patterns of retaliation and denial? Back inside, Marcus pressed further, demanding accountability, not just from Rebecca, but from the entire staff. "This isn't just about one bad day," he said, his voice rising slightly, commanding the attention of everyone present. "It's about the culture you've allowed to thrive here. A culture where discrimination is excused because it's convenient, where people are judged by their appearance instead of their humanity." His words hung heavy in the air, forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable truths. Some staffers avoided eye contact, guilt etched across their faces, while others shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to speak up or stay silent. For Rebecca, the weight of Marcus's accusations became unbearable. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized the magnitude of her mistake, not just professionally, but morally. Yet even in her desperation, she couldn't bring herself to fully admit fault. "I didn't mean for it to escalate like this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus leaned in closer, his expression unyielding. "Intent doesn't erase impact," he replied sharply. "What you did to my fiancé today was wrong, plain and simple, and now you'll face the consequences." The tension reached its peak when Marcus announced his decision. Rebecca and Mia were fired on the spot, their careers in bridal retail effectively over. Thanks to Marcus's influence in the industry, the remaining staff watched in stunned silence, the reality of the situation sinking in. No one dared to argue or plead their case, not after seeing how swiftly Marcus dismantled Rebecca's authority. As the two women gathered their belongings and slunk out of the boutique, defeated and humiliated, Marcus turned his attention to the rest of the team. "This is your chance to learn," he said firmly, addressing the group. "From now on, every bride who walks through these doors will be treated with the respect and care they deserve. No exceptions. If I hear of any repeat behavior, you'll join Rebecca and Mia. Do I make myself clear?" Heads nodded vigorously, murmurs of agreement filling the room. But Marcus wasn't done yet. Turning toward the fitting rooms, he motioned for Amara to join him. This time, nothing would stop her from trying on her dream dress, the way it was always meant to be. Amara stepped back into the boutique, her head held high. The atmosphere had shifted completely. Gone was the hostility and condescension. In its place was a quiet reverence. Employees scrambled to assist her, offering apologies and assurances that they would ensure her experience was perfect. But none of that mattered to Amara anymore. What mattered was the look in Marcus's eyes as he watched her walk toward the mirror, finally wearing the gown she had envisioned on her wedding day. In that moment, surrounded by the remnants of a battle fought and won. Amara felt not just beautiful, but unstoppable. Yet, even as the story approached its resolution, questions lingered. Would firing Rebecca and Mia truly bring lasting change to Eleanor's bridal boutique? Could the systemic issues plaguing such establishments be rooted out entirely? Or were they too deeply entrenched? And most importantly, what lessons would the remaining staff take away from this unforgettable day? As the camera pans out, capturing Amara's radiant smile and Marcus's proud gaze, viewers are left reflecting on these themes, anticipating the final chapter where justice meets transformation. As eye to eyes, Amara stepped into the fitting room. The atmosphere in the boutique had shifted entirely. The staff who had once dismissed her with cold indifference now moved with urgency, their faces flushed with a mix of fear and apology. Marcus stood nearby, his presence ensuring no one dared to interfere or make excuses. This time, there were no arguments, no condescending remarks, just quiet respect. When Amara emerged wearing her gown, the transformation was breathtaking. The ivory silk hugged her figure perfectly, the delicate lace sleeves trailing down her arms like whispers of elegance. For the first time that day, she felt like a bride. Not just any bride, but her bride. Her reflection in the mirror wasn't just a woman in a dress. It was strength, resilience, and grace personified. Marcus watched her intently, his eyes softening as he took in the sight before him. "You look incredible," he said simply, his voice filled with pride. But beneath the admiration was something deeper, a shared understanding of what this moment truly meant. It wasn't just about the dress or the boutique anymore. It was about reclaiming power, dignity, and humanity in a world that often tried to strip those things away. Amara smiled faintly, meeting his gaze in the mirror. "We did this together," she murmured, her voice steady, despite the emotions swirling inside her. But the story didn't end there. As Amara finalized the payment at the counter, still $3,500, as originally agreed upon, the remaining staff exchanged uneasy glances. They knew they had been complicit in Rebecca and Mia's actions, even if only by staying silent. One of them, a young woman named Clara, hesitated before speaking up. "Miss Johnson," she began softly, her voice trembling slightly, "I'm so sorry for how you were treated today. None of us should have let it happen." Her words hung in the air, raw and sincere. Amara paused, studying Clara's face. There was genuine remorse there, not the rehearsed apologies they had offered earlier. After a long moment, she nodded, slowly. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "But remember, it's not enough to just apologize. You have to do better." The message hit home. The employees glanced at each other, silently vowing to change the culture of the boutique moving forward. Marcus noticed the shift too, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He leaned against the counter, addressing the group one last time. "This isn't just about today," he said firmly. "It's about every customer who walks through these doors. Treat them all with the same care and respect you showed Amara tonight, or find another job." His tone left no room for doubt, and the staff nodded quickly, their expressions serious. With everything settled, Amara and Marcus left the boutique hand in hand, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. The anger and humiliation that had weighed on Amara earlier had dissolved, replaced by a sense of triumph. She glanced up at Marcus, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You know," she said after a while, "this could have gone so differently if you hadn't been here." Marcus shook his head, squeezing her hand gently. "No," he corrected her. "It went differently because you refused to back down. I just gave them a reason to listen." His words lingered between them, a reminder of the importance of standing firm in the face of injustice. Back at the boutique, the fallout continued. Word spread quickly about what had happened, not just among the staff, but across the bridal retail community. Thanks to Marcus's influence, Rebecca and Mia found themselves blacklisted from working in high-end boutiques again. Their reputations were tarnished, a sobering reminder of the consequences of discriminatory behavior. Meanwhile, Eleanor's bridal boutique underwent significant changes under new management. Policies were rewritten, training programs implemented, and inclusivity became a core value. Slowly but surely, the boutique transformed into a place where every bride felt welcome and valued. For Amara and Marcus, life moved forward, their bond stronger than ever. The incident at the boutique became a turning point, not just for them personally, but for others who heard their story. It sparked conversations about systemic racism, accountability, and the importance of allyship. People began sharing their own experiences, creating a ripple effect of awareness and change. In the end, what started as a nightmare turned into an opportunity for growth, for Amara, for Marcus, and for everyone touched by their journey. As they drove home that night, Amara looked out the window, watching the city lights blur past. She thought about the road ahead, the wedding, the future, the challenges they might still face. But for the first time, she felt ready to fight, to love, to live unapologetically. And as Marcus reached over to take her hand, she realized something else. Justice wasn't just about winning. It was about creating a world where stories like hers didn't have to exist anymore.